Guess we might as well get started since it is 8:32, our official start time. Officially 2 minutes past our start time. I always forget to check the settings to see if I have the right microphone selected, and I didn't. So there we go. That might sound a little bit better. Hopefully that sounds a little bit better, but either way, we are good to go. I'm going to close the other window so I don't start getting weird audio in my ear. And we are live for this week's Panther-Lair Show here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We got a lot to talk about, of course, with the official visits coming up. Beanie Bishop stepping on a Pitt logo, a fun little Pitt basketball thing that showed up on social media. My dog trying to get into the camera, so I got to pet him, just because he's a good boy, and I don't want him to think that he's not. He actually showed up on screen one time, I think last week during the morning pit. I don't know if you guys saw that, but all right, go on, buddy. Get out of there. We'll see if he listens. Yep, he's going to go to bed. He's a good boy. That's how it goes. But we got a lot to talk about this week. Recruiting is going to be a big part of it, of course. The biggest part of it. It's the official visit weekend as the official visits start tomorrow. The recruits will be coming in tomorrow through Saturday. They'll have probably about 20 recruits coming through town, visiting Pitt, taking official visits, and probably a bunch of them committing. We haven't gotten a final number yet. We think that number's right around 20. We'll bring Jim in a second, and we could talk about that for sure, because I think a lot of our conversation tonight will be about the official visits and the recruits. But, of course, there's always plenty of things to talk about. We can talk about, well, we always talk about Roman Cialepa, so that's going to be part of it as well. But also this Beanie Bishop thing, this fun social media Pitt basketball thing that I enjoy, and I think there's a hack to it. So we'll get into that as well. And anything else you guys want to talk about, so jump into the chat screen over there. Josh Newark is already posting lots of times talking about how he is sitting in the Smoky Mountains watching the live stream while finishing up a bottle of Tennessee whiskey. And on that note, let's bring Jim in to talk about this, Jim. Tennessee whiskey, it is smoother than your Kentucky bourbons and your sort of more traditional whiskeys. I'm not a whiskey connoisseur by any stretch of the imagination, but before we went to Tennessee a couple years ago, I read about Tennessee whiskey and found out that it's supposed to be a bit smoother. Have you had any experience with Tennessee whiskey, Jim?
I can't really. I mean, it's a good song, but I can't really say.
Yeah, who is that? Is that Chris Stapleton?
It is, yeah.
Or is that the one of the other ones? Chris Stapleton's one of the good ones, right? Not like so, complete like moron. Right. Okay, good. Yeah, I like that song. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I am also not like a whiskey bourbon connoisseur. Like I'll enjoy it, but I can't really say like I have favorites and I could list, why this is better and why it's not. So
Right. Yeah, I enjoyed it when I was there. I bought a nice bottle. I think I might have finished it while we were there. I forget if any of the bottle came back. My biggest issue, and then we'll move on. I've complained about this before. We went to, we were in Gatlinburg, like total touristy area in the Smoky Mountains. And I'm like, hell yeah, going to Tennessee. I am going to get some moonshine, right? Because moonshine's like everywhere there. I'm like, yeah, buddy, we are going to get some moonshine. And like, I'm thinking like, the kind of stuff you can like run your car on, you know what I mean? The stuff that like puts hair on your chest, And so I walk into like the moonshine shop and it's all like apple and strawberry and peach and root beer flavored. And I'm like, where's like the stuff that like is really that tastes like drinking gasoline? That's what I came here for. And I couldn't find it anywhere. So I guess you have to get out of the touristy areas, but like it was just all... It was just really touristy, everything there, and the moonshine in particular. So have you ever had like real moonshine, Jim?
I can't say that I have. So you were kind of looking more for like the TV show, like Moonshiners, like you wanted that authentic, like straight from the mountains.
So yes, well, I never watched that show, but we went to a moonshine distillery that did like a tasting, and she told the whole story about how they're apparently connected to that show. And I'm like, okay, so what do you got? Oh, well, here's our apple, here's our peach, here's our strawberry. And I'm like, no, I don't want the cinnamon. I want like the really gnarly stuff that like, has to be made up. And I guess I had to go deeper into the mountains and just stay out of the touristy area. But hopefully Josh Newark is having more success. Well, he's drinking the Tennessee whiskey, so he's in good shape there. Jim, I love this Beanie Bishop thing. Beanie Bishop, Steeler corner, got benched last year, right? Like, for a team that completely fell apart down the stretch. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, I think he was like kind of like a slot corner. He did come up, like I do remember him having like 3 or 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
And I think he intercepted Aaron Rodgers twice and asked him to sign the footballs, and Aaron Rodgers was like a good sport about it and did it.
Yeah. Well, that's clearly a winning mentality right there. True competitor always gets your opponent to sign the football for you. But so he did a video of himself stepping on Pitt's logo, and apparently this was the logo like upstairs in Pitt's facility. Did you know this? Because at first I had trouble placing the logo. I mean, you and I have been in that building a lot of times, and I was like, where was this logo? Is this in the indoor? It wasn't in the indoor. It wasn't, outside on the outside practice fields. Did you recognize where it was from?
No, I kind of figure it would just be like right inside the door, but I guess that's more of like a tile floor. So he went upstairs, and it's like right where they keep like the ACC championship trophy, like that carpet. So he was really trespassing to get up there.
Yeah, apparently they were doing some photo shoots or something. And the Steelers needed the room on Pitt's side to do these photo shoots, and so he was walking through, not like walking straight off of practice or something, probably somewhat clean. Because I mean, even the Pitt players aren't allowed to wear their cleats upstairs in that building. You know what I mean? They have to take them off before they could go up there. So and then he takes a video of himself sort of trying to scuff up the Pitt logo, creates a big to-do on social media and whatnot. I like it. I mean, this is a guy who is at West Virginia for 1 year of his 10 years in college. He was at West Virginia for 1 year. He played one game against Pitt, and he has enough dislike to do that. That's kind of what makes college sports great. And it became a story all day long. You know what I mean? It became enough of a story that the content aggregators were making articles about the social media reaction to it. You know what I mean? You've achieved a certain level of ubiquity when your story, the story isn't enough anymore. Now it's about the reaction to the story. It was all, you know what I mean? That's how big it got. And I kind of love it. Him doing it is a great example of why rivalries in college sports are great. The Pitt fans and Pitt players getting all worked up about it is a great story of why rivalries in college sports are great. I thought it was fun, and I'm not endorsing it. He shouldn't do it, but I think it's great that he was motivated to do it, and I think it's great that everybody got mad about it.
Yeah, I think it's funny, and I think it kind of adds fuel to the fire. Not that it really needs it. I think it was cool and organic to see just how both schools, all this, these new set of players and coaches, they just got it right away. The first game in 2022, Keaton Slovis at the bonfire, oh, we're going to kick their ass or something like that. These guys got it right away. And I think it kind of resonated. I assumed Beanie Bishop was there for years. I thought he was hardcore Morgantown. So I was surprised whenever he only played just in 2023 against Pitt. But yeah, it'd be the same thing if Nate Matlack was so passionate about the backyard brawl and was just super hated West Virginia. And I don't know, I think that's cool that Beanie Bishop, he walked by a Pitt logo and was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna step in it. And yeah, good for him. And I mean, the game's gonna be awesome this year, and that's just another storyline to it.
Yeah. And I mean, John Christofic says Beanie Bishop owes Pitt an apology for his childish act. I kind of don't want him to apologize because it kind of keeps the animosity up if he's he stands by it. And again, I'm not saying he should do it, but I think it's pretty funny that he did it. And again, it's because of these rivalries. I made this example to a couple people, if there was a guy who played for the Browns, and then he goes and gets signed by, I don't know, take your random pick, the Vikings or something. He's not going to go try and scuff up a Steelers logo because he's hating on, he's carrying over that hate. Nobody cares. Nobody cares in the NFL. They're trying to get autographs from each other. Like you just said, Beanie Bishop is trying to get an autograph from Aaron Rodgers. But when he sees a Pitt logo, he cannot help himself but scuff it. This, even though he was only there probably for less than one calendar year. He had 7 tackles and a pick against Pitt in 2023. Also, he had a pretty good game that game. Although, as some people pointed out, getting an interception from Phil Dracovic that year wasn't exactly a crowning achievement.
Yeah, a couple of those were, I think Phil threw 3 that game, and at least 2 of them were just arm punts. They were going to no one, and he just stepped in front of it. But yeah, Yeah, good for him. Like, good for the rivalry. Like, I think it's great. I love the reaction from everyone today. And, there's going to be like a time, like, they don't always practice side by side.
Yeah.
But sometimes they do. And, like, some guys on the Pitt team are going to say something to him.
Well, it was today. The Steelers went out and practiced today. Maybe you didn't see the clip from this afternoon. The Steelers went out and practiced today. And apparently some Pitt players were out there, like, giving him the business because they interviewed Beanie Bishop after practice and they were like, hey, it seems like some Pitt players are kind of yelling at you. And he like took some shots. He's like, yeah, they were talking to me a lot last year too. And he's like, it got kind of quiet down the stretch there, like, referencing Pitt's late season collapse. And he's like, yeah, so they were out there doing it again. And, he said, call it the Beanie Bishop fan club. To which Cam Lindsay quote tweeted and said, we're not his fans. It's great. Like it's fun, good natured stuff. I mean, you mentioned Keaton Slovis. He didn't just say we're going to kick their butts. He went full blown FWVU. I mean, like he dropped a big bad swear word on the bonfire that night. And that was before he even played in the game. That was 2 days before his only game against West Virginia. So fun stuff. Good times. I enjoy college sports for this matter. I do want to bring this up just because Josh Newark brought it up. I want to get into this before we dive full blown into the official visits. But let me see if I can share my screen. You might have seen this. Present. Share screen. This one. All right. Can you see that, Jim?
I can.
Is that visible for you? Okay, so you got $15 to build a Pitt basketball lineup. Okay, and like this is probably the kind of thing we should save for late in the show, but I'll just get to it now. Assuming you can read it, Brandon Knight, Ashton Gibbs, Sam Young, Blake Hinson, DeJuan Blair, they're all $5 each. You got down through your 4, 3, 2, and 1. You got $15 to build a starting lineup here, ostensibly with 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. Anything jump out at you there?
So I anticipated that you would ask me about this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I had forgotten about it until Josh Newark brought it up.
Oh, well, so I made a team. I already have mine.
What do you got?
So I only used $14.
Wow.
I went a little cheap in some spots so I could have 2 $5 players.
Okay.
So I thought the best value on the whole board was Brad Wanamaker for $1.
Yeah, that's ridiculously cheap. Whoever made this is seriously undervaluing Brad Wanamaker. I agree.
Okay. So I also went $1 with Ronald Ramon.
Oh, wow.
But then I went Sam Young.
Yeah.
DeJuan Blair, that's obvious.
Right.
Then I went Justin Champagnie as my power forward.
Okay. I'll take that.
So when I look at my team, I don't think anyone's ever going to get a rebound against me.
No, like, probably not.
Blair and Champagnie, like both average double-digit or average double-doubles their sophomore years. Sam Young's like the 4th leading scorer in Pitt history, also could rebound. And Brad Wanamaker was a good rebounding guard. So I think I have a good balance. I guess I'm short. My team's not very tall.
Yeah. But Champagnie was decent. What was Champagnie like 6'10"? Was he a little bit less than that?
He's like 6'7".
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. Whatever. So, I mean, but you know what? I mean, DeJuan was 6'7", but I would take him over any center on this list. So, I mean, that's a pretty good lineup. And I mean, Wanamaker could be your point guard. That could work. I mean, he's under the point guard category, so I would take it. I feel like there's a hack in this, though. And it's at the bottom there. You see the fine print at the bottom? 6th man for free, James Robinson, Trey Woodall, Ontario Lett, Nasir Robinson, Cameron Johnson. Do you see that down there?
I do. I missed that when, like, the original time I went through.
Yeah. See, I feel like that's a hack because, like, I'll take a starting 5 with James Robinson, Trey Woodall, Sam Young, Blake Hinson, and DeJuan Blair. Like, if you're going to give me Robinson and Woodall for free, I'll start those 2 with Sam Young, Blake Hinson, and DeJuan Blair, and I'm pretty sure I'll dominate. I won't be as good on the boards as you are, but I also might score like 140 points.
Yeah.
Between Young, Hinson, and Blair. Because any shot Young or Hinson miss, Blair gets the rebound, And James Robinson can set all those guys up. Trey Woodall was a solid. I mean, like, I basically have 2 point guards on the floor. And then I have 3, like, monster scoring guys who can average 20 points per game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm cheating there. Am I cheating?
I don't think. I mean, like I went a direction where I could have 2 5-star players. You went a direction where you could have 3.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the $5 guys. And I mean, like all of those
Yeah, they're
guys
good.
being free, like Robinson, Woodall, Ontario Let, Nasir Robinson, Cameron Johnson, like that's serious disrespect to those guys as well being free. They were better than free players. I think they deserve a little bit better than that. But oh well, that was fun. And interesting. I feel like I say, we're cheating with the free guys, but it doesn't matter. We'll get down to business with the official visits this weekend, Jim. We've currently got 18 players confirmed. Does that number sound right to you? I think that's what I counted up.
I think so. It's
With
it's going to be like
a couple more.
Yeah, like 18 to 21 is probably where we're sitting.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good number. We'll stick in the 18 we have confirmed at this point. Obviously, 5 of those guys are already committed to Pitt. That's the entirety of the recruiting class at this point. Right? I'm not forgetting anybody, right? All the commitments are coming in this weekend. So,
yeah.
You know, I guess first of all, you know, they're going to have 3 official visit weekends. And we typically see them put the higher priority guys in the first week, but that doesn't mean all the priority guys are in the first week, right? We've seen them bring in good players in the second and third weekend in the past, but putting all the commitments on this first weekend sure does feel like they are trying to gear up to get a big haul between now and Saturday, doesn't it?
It does. And because it wasn't always that way, I think one of them or maybe 2 of the commits were scheduled to come later in the month. And at some point along the way, they decided, okay, like all 5 of you guys are going to be here at once. And that just felt at the time like, oh, yeah, okay, they're going for it. So I don't know. I mean, there's still going to be good players after this. And sometimes you have to work around other guys' schedules. Like they might already promise someone like, hey, I'll be there June 5th. And there's not much you could do about it. If you still want them, you're going to bring them in later. So every school kind of operates like, oh, you want the first weekend to be the good one, but it doesn't always work that way. I mean, everyone's on different schedules. And, you know, like last week, like Rutgers had probably some guys Pitt would have taken. It's just Rutgers might have wanted them a little bit more, and they had their big official visit weekend last week. So everything's always changing, but I don't know. I think it's a good group. They have, I think, almost every position represented. Like I think their quarterback's going to be there, a couple running backs, 4 or 5 receivers, a tight end, maybe 3 linemen, maybe 3 defensive linemen, a couple linebackers, a couple defensive backs. So they have a good blend, and like they're kind of touching on all their bases. Yeah,
there is a slight imbalance with offense. I think out of the 18 we have confirmed, I think 11 are on offense, and that's sort of how the recruiting class is so far, right? There's 5 guys committed, 3 of them are offensive players, the other 2 are defense. We've talked before about the wide receivers, about how they already have 2 commitments. They've got 3 other wide receivers coming in this weekend. Wasn't there 1 or 2 more who moved their visits? Like, you know, does it feel to you, and maybe I'm just getting caught up in this class, but does it feel to you like they are trying to go offense heavy in this class?
It does feel that way. It just like it stood out for a while. Like they've just been linked to a lot of wide receivers.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a sense of that the offensive coaches are young and they're out there, and it just seems like they're offering a lot of guys, but at the same time, like, you know, the proof is in the pudding. Like there's a lot of offensive guys that are going to be there these next 3 weekends. So it does seem to be targeted. It kind of felt that way last year too. I mean, it seemed like they were just in on a lot of receivers, a lot of running backs. Like they were trying to flip the skill positions, and they did. I mean, they brought in 3 running backs, they brought in 3 receivers, and it kind of seems like they could go in that same direction this year. I mean, I think they would take multiple backs. I think they already have multiple receivers. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if they just feel the need to flip the room, kind of get the personnel that Cade Bell and Jacob Ranowski and JJ Laster want, but I don't know. I mean, it sure does seem that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think they like. I think what you said at the end there about flipping the room. I mean, they've taken 3 wide receiver transfers this year, right? They took 2 last year, Raphael Williams and Sincere Lee. So 5 transfers at receiver over the last 2 years. And then, I mean, they've taken transfer receivers each of the last 4 years, you know what I mean? With Bub Means and Kanate Mumfield and, you know, Dejon Reynolds, Williams and Lee last year, and then 3 guys this year. it feels to me like there were some big gaps in wide receiver recruiting over the past 5 years, 6 years, and they've tried to make up for it from the transfer portal. I don't think they're real keen on what they've gotten so far. So they signed 3 recruits coming in as true freshmen. I think they're going to try to go for another big group and just rebuild that position from the high school recruiting. I mean, they've done it with the transfers. They've tried to do it with the transfers, but I don't think they want to live that way year to year, having to take 3 receivers every year out of the transfer portal. I think they want to try to build it with high school guys, and so they're going after volume this year. And I think the guys they brought in that are going to be freshmen this year, I mean, I think we're going to see them, right? Like Bryce Yates, Tony Kinsler, Cam Sapp. I would think at least one of them plays, and maybe 2 don't redshirt. I mean, like it's not even that crazy to think that all 3 could like play this season, is it?
No, I mean, I think that's very much on the table. And just because, like, outside of Kenny Johnson and, Sincere Lee and Poppy Williams, like, there's opportunity. There's snaps to be had. Everyone else is either young, a transfer, or a freshman. So, like, everyone is kind of on that same level that they're competing, trying to impress the coaches. So, and, to kind of go back to the other topic of, like, flipping the room, when you look, they're bringing in numbers, but like the guys transferring out are all offense. Like if you remember like that post-spring, like transfer portal window, almost every guy that left was on the offensive side of the ball. So they went through another spring camp. They went through a season, then spring camp, and realized like, okay, like I might not be what they're looking for. So I think there is a sense that like this offensive coaching staff is just trying to get their type of personnel in there. So it's not so much filling in the gaps from recruiting, like they're kind of cleaning house and just bringing in their own people.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of looking over it real quick, they had 6 or 7 offensive guys leave in December, and then all of Pitt's 7 transfer departures post-spring camp, like you said, were on offense. I mean, every single one. It wasn't almost all. It was all. Julian Duggar, the 2 receivers, Andy Jean and Cam Montero, the tight end, Jake Renda, and then the 3 offensive linemen, Adam Abaraya, Terrence Enos, and Maurice Schmoranzer. So it's a heavy offensive exodus, which they then have. But I mean, it's like chicken and egg, right? Like, did those guys leave? No. Did they bring in all the offensive transfers in December because these guys who left post-spring weren't up to snuff? Or did these guys leave post-spring because they brought in all the transfers in December? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure which one predicated the other. I guess, then you have the case of Andy Jean, which is some kind of like, inception thing where like, he both came and left in the same offseason. But look, the reality is, I mean, I think offensive recruiting has lagged for years. Over the last 10 years, it hasn't been all that great. You can think about the fact that, Pat Narduzzi's the leading passer in his 10 seasons. And we might have talked about this last week. Leading passer in his 10 seasons, it was basically Kenny Pickett, a transfer, or Ben DiNucci. And like that, and that's it. And DiNucci threw for like 1,000 yards in 2017. Too bad Max Brown couldn't have gotten a little bit more, because then you could say that Pat Narduzzi's leading passer in his 10 seasons has either been Kenny Pickett or a transfer. But that's been the reality. Each of the last 3 years, it's been a transfer. And they've just had to rebuild because they haven't recruited quarterbacks well enough. And I think you're seeing it with the wide receivers coming in as well. Tight end, we don't have to talk about that. I went on a rant about tight ends last week, Jim, and then I looked up the numbers. It's actually even like I painted a pretty grim picture of the tight ends last week when I ranted about them. It's actually worse than that. Like, I don't even want to get into the stats, but the tight ends have just done so very little. And so they've tried to address that with transfers. They've tried to address the offensive line with transfers, and they've taken transfers on the defensive side, but not nearly as much and not nearly as sort of urgently. Outside of like the defensive ends the last 2 years, they haven't really taken where they've been desperate. You know what I mean? Where they've just been like, oh, okay, we absolutely have to fill this spot, so we've got to go get a bunch of transfers. I feel like their other transfers they brought in on defense have been like luxuries. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like they're more like Tyler Wiltz. Like, oh, like this guy looks like a good linebacker that could probably get snaps for us. Like, why the hell not? Let's just take him. So like the offensive ones are like, we absolutely need a starting tight end and a starting quarterback and a left tackle. It's like do or die unless we make these things happen. So, yeah, I mean, I think when, tying it all back to recruiting is they want to get to that point where they don't necessarily need to rely on the transfers. It's more just like you plug and play when you need to fill a hole, not just rebuild a position with it.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, there's like, as we talk about this, they're trying to rebuild the offense, the wide receiver room and all this stuff. I mean, like you're talking about recruits who are going to be playing their senior year of high school in the fall. So they're not going to help you now. They're probably not going to help you next year, but I think there are long-term intentions here of trying to build that room back up, and we'll see how it goes. They definitely have a type. Although when you look at these wide receivers that are coming in this weekend, Larry Miles, he's like a 5'11" guy. Jafar Jean Noel, how you pronouncing that one, Jim? The former West Virginia commit.
That's what I was going with. Like I like Jafar, like from Aladdin. Like that's the only thing that's really that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, Jeffar, Jafar. I don't know how else you could do it, but anyway, he's like 5'10". The two commits, Demetrius McCray, we list him at 6 foot. Dylan Wester, we list him at 5'9". But then there's Jaden Dunbar from Georgia, who's 6'5". Like how does he fit in here, Jim? What can you? I know you just wrote the preview for tomorrow, so all this stuff should be fresh in your mind. What how does Jaden Dunbar fit in with all these other short, fast guys?
I mean, it kind of goes back to what they did in the transfer portal. It's like they still did take Deuce Spann. Like there still seems to be some semblance of a plan to have a bigger wide receiver in the rotation. I mean, they can't all be 5'9". So I guess that's what that's about. I mean, he only had like, I think 25 catches last year, but 7 of them were for touchdowns or something like that. So, I mean, he's a red zone target. He's your big wide receiver target. And we'll see how they use Deuce Spann this year and see if that's actually something that's going to be part of this offense. Because while I just said they can't all be 5'10", they might be with the way they coach. Like that it might just work out that way most years.
I was gonna say, like when you said that, I was like, "Are you sure about that? Are you sure they can't all be 5'9" or 5'10"? Because it seems like they're content to have them all be 5'9" or 5'10", and except for Jaden Dunbar. So, out of these wide receivers here, the 3 that are visiting, Jaden Dunbar, Larry Miles, Jafar Jean Noel. You have a feel, is there a guy you're particularly keeping your eye on as a potential commitment out of this group, Jim?
It's hard to say. I mean, I think they all have visits after this. Like the next 2 weekends are big visits across the country as well. So you never know what's going to happen on one of these. Like I think Jean Noel has been to 2 visits already. So he might not do all 5 and might be ready to come to this decision after 3. So I don't know. I can't really say I have a favorite that who's most likely to commit. I mean, of the 3, I kind of like Miles. I thought he had a really good offer sheet, plays for a really good high school, American Heritage. Like they always have dudes. So I would probably take a bet on a guy like that.
Yeah. But Larry Miles, the guy, he's got some 4-star rankings, I think, on the internet. He, I think, went to Oregon and Nebraska before Pitt, and then is going to Kentucky and Syracuse after. So he might be locked in for some extended visits. But, you put him around the quarterback commitment, right? You put him around Angelo Renda, and, he sells him on the offense and the featured role, and maybe you're able to swing him. Running back wise, they had 2, Damon Ferguson and Christian Lawrence. Ferguson, I think we list at 5'11". Does he seem like a bigger back to you than what we typically see? Because Lawrence is like 5'9", right? Like he's a small Pitt-sized running back, but Ferguson's a little bit bigger, isn't he?
Yeah, I think we have him at 5'11", 190. So, I mean, not like a big back, but in terms for Pitt, yeah, that's he's just a normal running back, but for Pitt, he's like a giant running back.
Yeah.
But I think he's already been on 2 visits. I think he went to Minnesota already. I think he has to go to Michigan State and Virginia after Pitt. So we'll see. I mean, this will be his 3rd official visit. He's a really talented player. I think Ohio State was sniffing around on him in the spring. So, and Pitt's been on him, and I think he really likes just the offensive coaching staff. I think that's just kind of been. He's tight with Lindsey Lamar. He kind of believes in what Cade Bell's selling. So I I don't know if I want to put him on one to watch because I think he's one of the better visitors, here this weekend. But like he would be a big get for them because he does seem like their top running back priority.
I wonder if they would take 2 this year. They took 3 running backs last year, but it sort of feels like running back is similar to wide receiver, where they took 3 receivers last year out of the, on the recruiting side, but they've just needed to rebuild that position group. And I feel like they've needed to rebuild the running backs as well, right? I think 2022 was that Jordan Bailey? Maybe it was like the running back commitment in that class.
I think you're right. And like,
who was in 23? I'm trying to have a list of the official visit commitments here. Oh, Montravius Lloyd, right? And so he's gone. Jordan Bailey never made it. 2024 recruiting class. I'm trying to bank. Who was a freshman this past year?
Juelz
Goff. Okay. So he's still stuck around, but they like multiple classes in a row. Izzy Abanikanda was a freshman in 2020, but since then, it's just kind of washed out, like there's just not a lot to show for it, which is why people were wondering if they would take a transfer this offseason. Is your phone buzzing or is that somewhere in my house?
I was buzzing, then I went do not disturb. So I think it's you.
I don't know where that phone might be. That's weird. There's some random phone somewhere in my house buzzing. Maybe it was upstairs or something like that. What were we saying? Oh, the running backs. I mean, people wondered if they would take a transfer because they just seem so slim at running back. They obviously didn't. But the reason they're so thin is because, you had Izzy in 2020 and then 2021 was Malik Newton and Rodney Hammond. So you have 2021, 22, and 23. Those classes have 0 running backs on the roster right now. And that's some giant holes that you do need to fill from the transfer portal. And they have with Desmond Reed and Derek Davis, but they probably needed more. So I guess I wonder, given all of those holes, do you think they try and get multiple backs in this recruiting class too, just knowing you'll probably lose 1 or 2 to the portal over the next couple of years, but just to try and fill things up, just to get bodies in the room again?
Yeah, I could see them going for 2. I mean, I think they would really like to land Ferguson, and I think they would probably take both of the running backs here this weekend. I think they're both talented players, and I think there's one on the books for next week, Sir Paul Cheeks, which, great name. Like, you kind of want to hold a spot for him. But yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think those are the 3 running backs right now. Obviously, things can change, and someone might be here next weekend that we don't know about, but ideally, I think they would probably take 2 of those guys, and if they could get them both this weekend, they would be happy.
Yeah, I think they need it. They need the numbers. Let's see what else. Obviously, Angelo Renda, the commitment from Texas. Have you seen anything with other schools sniffing around with him? He committed to Pitt back in January before he even visited. He's since made a trip to Pitt in the spring, and now he's back for his official visit. Looks really good, plays at a big school. He's going to put up big numbers last year. But I forget. He tweeted out a couple offers, hasn't he, over the past 5 months?
Yeah, it was like Tulsa or something like that. It wasn't even like a big time offer. So I haven't seen anything like that yet. And I don't know if he really did like the camp circuit this year. Like, I don't know if he was doing all that. Cause like, I think that's where Pitt's kind of gotten into trouble in the past. It's like, it seems like they unearth a pretty good quarterback and they go to a camp and everyone else realizes it too. I think that happened with Kenny Minchie. There's someone else recently, and I don't even know if he committed, but like usually if you're going to try to hide a quarterback, don't go to these Under Armour camps, the Elite 11 camps, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, you can hang on to him. So far so good with Angelo Renda. I haven't heard anything like other schools are involved or he's kind of looking around, but I think we said before, I mean, when you play 7A Texas football at one of the biggest powerhouses and you're going to put up 4,000 yards and 50 touchdowns and someone needs a quarterback late in the game, like he's going to be someone they're going to try to get. So, I mean, I think this is a weekend where you just really want to let him know, like, hey, man, like this is the place for you. Like we're building around you and it's all about you. Like you're our guy.
Yeah. I was thinking like, late in the process, TCU or somebody comes through. But TCU has a quarterback committed. So maybe that won't, he actually committed in February. He committed after Angelo Renda did. But yeah, somebody could come in late, like you said. Another school decides late in the process, a couple weeks before signing day, that they need a quarterback. I'm guessing he's going to put up huge numbers this year, so he'll be on the radar. Pitt's best hope probably is that he's a little bit too small, right? Because he's like a shorter guy. I think, what does he list? He lists himself at 6 foot. In the photo, he's maybe a little taller than Cade Bell, and Cade Bell is not very tall. So
Yeah.
maybe that'll be the thing that keeps other teams away, is the size. Because Mason Heinzel is not big, but he's a little bit bigger than this. So maybe the size will keep other teams away, and they can rebuild there a little bit. I guess that's another interesting question. I said about how for the last 3 years since Kenny Pickett, it's been a transfer leading Pitt in passing every year. I don't know. If you had to guess, like, would you think that maybe after this year or next year they can settle into like actual recruited guys? Or do you feel like Pitt just might be stuck in a cycle of transfer quarterbacks, and that's just what they're going to have to live with for the next 10 years?
Well, I mean, if we're basing off of what everything was said about him in spring, like Mason Heinzel sounds awesome. Like, like he might even get on the field this year. So like, I think that stands to reason that, whenever Eli Holstein moves on, like they would probably feel comfortable with him if, and from my untrained eye, like Angelo Renda looks pretty good to me. Like what he's doing on the field, the numbers he's putting up, and I don't care if he's playing with a bunch of Division I players, because he's playing against a bunch of Division I players. It's big time high school football in Texas, and he's going out and doing it. So I think between one of those two guys, I think they're gonna have a chance to have a homegrown quarterback again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Of course, there's a lot that could go into that too. Cade Bell has to stick around for the next 3 years, and one of these guys, because they could have a breakout season, start getting wooed away by other NIL offers, but maybe they'll have multi-year revenue sharing deals by then, and then it won't matter. Interesting stuff this weekend with 3 local guys taking their official visits. Reston Lehman, the defensive end from Peters, Lincoln Hoke, the defensive tackle from North Allegheny, and then Colson Gatton, the linebacker from Central Catholic. I think we've talked about this at different points. It does seem like there's momentum in Pitt's corner with Reston Lehman, where it started out seeming like that, and then it seemed like Rutgers was in the lead, but then he visited Rutgers last weekend and didn't commit. So maybe that door is still open there. Over under 1.5 Whitfield guys commit to Pitt this weekend. Of these 3 guys, Lehman, Hoke, and Gatton.
I could go over. I think Reston Lehman, I think there's more of a chance than maybe we realized, and he has a great offer sheet, and that was like one of the things that kind of struck me as I was doing the preview. But it's notable that he's kind of locking in on Pitt, Penn State, Rutgers, which suggests to me is he doesn't want to go too far from home. Like he wants to be in a spot where his parents can go to his games. So I think obviously Pitt can offer the closest ride to home. So I think that's going to play a factor. I never really thought Colson Gatton was going to give Pitt a chance. He just seemed like a Central Catholic kid that was just going to look elsewhere, and he may end up elsewhere, and that might happen. But I think he's giving Pitt an honest chance. Like I think he really likes Ryan Manilak. I think just not even just the hometown thing. Like if you're a high school linebacker right now, I think you would be doing yourself a disservice to not look at Pitt. Like I think just with what they have going on right now, it's like you have to at least give them a chance. So we'll see with that one. And the other point is like Lincoln Hoke doesn't have a ton of offers. So you have to wonder, it's like, why hasn't he committed already? Because he's been to Pitt. So we'll see there. But there's a chance with 2 out of the 3. I mean, I think Lehman's probably more likely than we probably would have said a week ago at this time, which is, obviously encouraging for Pitt's chances.
Yeah. It's like when that arrow points in a certain direction. Lehman's teammate, of course, I mean, you talk about staying close to home. His teammate, Lucas Schanefeld, is going to Stanford. So he's not as interested in staying close to home, which is funny because there was a point not that long ago when I would have said Schanefeld was the most likely of these Whitfield guys to commit to Pitt. Yeah, we'll see what happens with this weekend with those guys. I think there's probably a decent chance they'd land 1 or 2 of those guys this weekend. I don't know a whole lot about Logan Nagel, the defensive. He's a defensive tackle, right? 6'5" guy out of New Jersey.
I'm not sure if he's D end or D tackle. I mean, 6'5", 250. I mean, that would be a big defensive tackle for Pitt. Like normally their guys are built more like Isaiah Neal, Kalijah Cansey, so it would be definitely different. But he's been around a couple times. Like I think he did a junior day. I don't know if he came to a game in the fall, but I think he was at a spring practice. So he's been around. I don't know. Is he going to Michigan State next? I feel like there's a lot of crossover with Michigan State this year.
Yeah, there usually is, and particularly New Jersey guys. I feel like there's that happens. He's actually going. So he went to Indiana at the beginning of May, Boston College last week. He's going to NC State next week, and then Michigan State at the end of the month, or like the third weekend in June. That's what we list on his 247 profile. I don't know if that changed or not, but yeah, Michigan State. I feel like, especially in Narduzzi's early years, he ran into Michigan State a lot in New Jersey because he used to recruit New Jersey for Michigan State. Yeah. So I feel like there was a lot of kind of overlap there, and they would get guys every now and then. I feel like they never really got I mean, they obviously got great players out of the state of New Jersey. I mean, like Kenny Pickett, Kyle Lewis obviously come to mind, but I don't feel like they won too many big recruiting battles in New Jersey. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to think if any come to mind. Like, I think Solomon DeShields was an okay win for them.
Yeah.
Like, I think he had some other Power 5 official visits. I actually think that was probably one of their better wins. But yeah, it's like guys like Kyle Lewis, Kenny Pickett. I mean, I'm trying to think of who else.
Well, that first year, that 2016 recruiting class, they flipped like 3 Jersey
like
guys from Rutgers, Phil Campbell and Justin Morgan, and I don't know if Elias Reynolds was committed to Rutgers or like was really close, or they thought they were going to get him or whatever. But yeah, Phil Campbell though was probably the best one out. It was not probably. He was definitely the best one out of that group. But he was a Jersey guy, and that was that was when people thought that Rutgers was starting the rumors about Pat Narduzzi potentially being up for like the Purdue job or something like that, because they were getting annoyed with him. Yeah, Purdue, because they were getting annoyed with him like stealing Rutgers kids, because he went in and took a bunch of I think it was Campbell, Morgan, and Reynolds in that December, back when there were December official visits that actually mattered. But I mean, they've obviously gotten good players out of Jersey. I just don't feel like too many of them were big recruiting battle wins. Do they have Is he the only guy from Jersey visiting this weekend? I think he is, right?
I think so.
Yeah, most of these guys are, I don't know about most, but a handful are Florida, a handful are Georgia. Marcus Jennings is a guy I like a lot. Linebacker, right, from Cass Tech, 6'3" guy. He's committed to Pitt, taking his official visit here. He's probably going to be one of the tougher guys to hold on to, isn't he?
I would think so. I mean, even after committing to Pitt, I think Iowa and Purdue offered, and I would guess Michigan State's probably sniffing around because they tend to sniff around on Pitt defensive recruits. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll quite get as big as like last year with Elijah Dotson, like Michigan kind of coming in at the end, but like there's going to be Big Ten schools, and obviously Cass Tech, most of their guys end up at Big Ten programs. So it's going to be a fight to keep him. But I that's also one of the reasons they got him, like, because Archie Collins is a Detroit guy. They built that connection. He likes Ryan Manilak too. So like there's a lot going for him, and, sticking with Pitt. And that's, I think we've talked about in the past. It's like, do you want to use his official visit the first weekend of June? Like now you just leave him open season until December. Like that's a scary thought, because he's probably going to be a really good signee by the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, you go back and forth about that, and you want to get him in, get him locked up, create that bond with the other recruits, which is a big part of it. But at the same time, yeah, that's stuff. I also think, wait, I want to see if it was him or who it was that was, maybe not. One of the other guys was telling me, Isaac Patterson. I was asking him, you taking your official visit? And he said, yeah, me and all the other commits are going to be there. And I was like, oh, are you talking to those guys a lot? He mentioned Dylan Wester and Marcus Jennings as guys he talks to a lot. And I think that can help. You know what I mean? I think the bonds within a recruiting class can go a long way in helping a class stay together, helping guys stay committed, if you have that connection. So I guess that might be one upside to bringing Marcus Jennings and all these guys. Because I tell you another one, I think Demetrius McCray is a guy that's going to be a real battle to hold on to, because I think he's a stud. He's not big, but none of these wide receivers are. But I think he could be an absolute stud in college, and I think he's going to have plenty of suitors as he has a big season as a senior in Florida. But all these guys, I mean, you get them together, put them in the same place for two days, 48 hours. I think you can build pretty strong bonds in that amount of time, and so I think that'll go a long way, and ideally solidifying with some of these guys, in addition to pulling in some more commitments along the way. Let's see who else. Kentrell McCray, I don't know much about. Florida guy, he's 6'2". I don't know. Do you see him more as a safety or a corner for Pitt?
I kind of viewed him more as a corner, and I think he would be the only corner visiting this weekend. I think there's only 2 defensive backs. It's Isaac Patterson and him. So I don't know. Like, he was kind of a newer offer. I think they offered him in May, and it was only last week he set up the official. So I don't even know if we've even had the chance to really talk to him or do an interview with him. So I don't really know too much about him going in, but usually Pitt does well with cornerbacks in Florida. I think they've gotten a lot of good players that way. Damari Mathis, Jadarian Harrison. It's just that's just one of their normal areas to just land really good defensive backs. So
yeah,
he seems like he would fit, tall, lanky corner, 6 foot, 170.
Yeah, I feel like there's hundreds of those guys in every recruiting class too. Yep. I mean, there's plenty to go to. Georgia's becoming that way a little bit, but Florida is still the that's where it all started. Adam Vinchik wants to know, how many commitments do you think Pitt will get this weekend? So just to set the table again, we've got 18 confirmed visitors. The number's probably going to be 20, 21, like you said, Jim. 5 of them are already committed. So out of the other 13 to 16 guys, what would you what would your guess? I was going to set an over under, but I mean, I don't know, what, 6.5? I don't know, something like that. 7.5 of how many guys they ultimately end up getting a commitment from.
Yeah, I could see about that. If they could leave this weekend with 12 and just have a little bit to clean up, over the next 2 weekends. If they leave June with about 20. So I don't know if they'll get to 20 or if it'll be about 18. But I would think the bulk of it's going to happen this weekend. So I could say 7.
Yeah. I could see a couple of these guys end up being, I don't know. I was going to say I could see a couple of these guys ending up being not takes, but I don't know. I think they kind of like most of the, I was like, I was about to say that, but then I started looking at the names. I'm like, well, I don't think they're not going to tell Reston Lehman no. I don't think they're going to tell Lincoln Hoke no. I don't think they're going to tell Logan Nagel no. I don't think they're going to tell either the running backs no. They're not going to tell Colson Gatton no. We didn't mention the offensive lineman or the tight end, Javonte Williams, but I don't think they're going to tell any of those guys no. They're not going to turn around Larry Miles. They're not going to turn away, Jaden Dunn. So I feel like most of these guys probably could commit this weekend if they wanted to. I think Pitt would take them. Because sometimes you can bake that into a visit weekend. Oh, they've got 15 visitors, but 4 of those guys really probably couldn't have committed if they wanted to. They wouldn't have had spots. I don't think that's the case with this weekend. And the other kind of fun part of this, Jim, will be, let's say 9 of these guys commit and 3 of them announce on Saturday, and we wait a week and a half for the other 6 to slowly announce on their own schedule. It'd be nice if they would all just announce on Saturday and just get it over with. But what's the latest you think somebody from this weekend who commits this weekend will finally announce? Because we've seen some ridiculous ones that went into July.
Yeah, who was that? Jeremiah Marslin, I think.
Yeah.
He was one Marslin. And his recruitment was weird.
Lamar Seymour dragged it out into late July or something too, I think.
Yeah, so hopefully none of those, because it just gets tough to whenever you start talking about recruiting, and it's you want to talk about the full class, and we usually know who committed, and we try to keep it under wraps for the kid so he can announce at his party or on his birthday or his mom's birthday and whatever. But sometimes in this day and age, it's kind of hard to keep a secret for a month.
Yeah.
It gets old after a while. So I don't know. Hopefully if you commit this weekend, it just happens over the next 3 to 4 days following Saturday.
Yeah. Brock says, what's the good news on Reston Lehman that Tom Lloyd was referring to? I think it's just what we were talking about earlier, that it seems like some things are heading in Pitt's direction here. It started off looking like Pitt would be the favorite. Rutgers made some moves and seemed to pick up and maybe even pass Pitt in that race. And then now it seems like Pitt might be pulling back, even if not ahead. So this weekend, there's a big opportunity here for Pitt to land the defensive end from Peters Township. Swim Boyd wants to know, how many legal pads do I need for June? I just got a new one out. So fresh legal pad here, and only some writing on the front page, which just a couple notes. I don't use legal pads as much during June. I might do some scribbling down. It'll be helpful for keeping track of what we were just talking about, Jim, where you write down the times of all the different Narduzzi tweets and then just start checking off as guys actually announce and be like, oh, well, we still have 3 more unclaimed Pat Narduzzi Pitt is it tweets. That's what it is, right? Pitt is it. I think I said hail to Pitt on
it's
tomorrow's
Pitt
morning.
Is it, yeah.
Darn it. You'd think I would know this, but I know it when I see it, So I won't need many legal pads. I got 3 back there, so I'm just gearing up for the season. I'll be ready for it. RJC Man wants to know, how much NIL money has Pitt generated for 2025 football? I have no idea. But they're trying. That's going to be interesting to watch, because the fundraising, it's Alliance 412 is still doing their stuff. Pitt is doing some stuff, trying to raise money for the revenue sharing. Both are going to probably keep operating and trying to raise money. They don't want to step on each other's toes. And it's, in some ways it's better for Pitt if Alliance 412 raises a lot of money, but Pitt always would like that money themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Swim Boyd wants to know, who are the top schools that Pitt fights recruits for? What do you think are some of the top recruiting battles that Pitt sort of consistently wins, I should say?
I think when you look at schools Pitt goes up against, it kind of varies by state. If it's an Ohio recruit, you can count on Cincinnati, Michigan State, Purdue, Kentucky, that in West Virginia. Then if you go to New Jersey, it's going to be Rutgers. It's definitely going to be Boston College. It's going to be Michigan State. Then you go to Florida, you'll probably run into Kentucky, Georgia Tech. So you kind of see the trends of where Pitt likes to recruit and where other schools like to recruit. So I don't know. I mean, you could go through and you just throw out an area and you can kind of count on if it's a DMV kid, obviously you're going to have to get through Maryland, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. There's just certain areas, if you're going to dip in there, what schools you're going to be seeing, if you're Pitt.
Yeah. And I think you touched on most of the ones that tend to show up there, right? West Virginia shows up a lot. Kentucky shows up a lot, sort of broadly, throughout the area that Pitt recruits. I mean, I think those two are often there. I think as you said, as you move further east, you get Virginia Tech, Virginia in there a lot, and Maryland in there a lot. But these are all schools that I think when you see them on the offer sheet, the more of them you see, you're like, okay, this seems like a solid, legit power conference player. But you don't say, oh no, Pitt doesn't have a chance.
Right.
I mean, once you start seeing Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, then you start feeling like those percentages go down. Those chances go down. But as long as you're seeing Georgia Tech and not Georgia, you're like, okay, this is a winnable battle here. As long as you're seeing, UCF and not Florida State, you're like, okay, this is a winnable battle. So it's those schools. I mean, I think generally it's other ACC schools. It's second tier and below Big Ten schools. It's not as much SEC schools, other than Kentucky, right? I don't feel like you see as much overlap as you see with like we said, West Virginia, Purdue, Illinois, Maryland. I don't feel like you see as many SEC schools show up.
No. Again, sometimes in Florida, you might run into Mississippi State sometimes.
Yeah.
That's a school you could definitely see. But for the most part, I guess sometimes Vanderbilt. Like sometimes, like I think Mason Wilhelm was like Pitt, UNC, Vanderbilt. Then he committed to UNC this weekend. Like so,
yeah. I guess NC State shows up sometimes, but I mean, like just on
Louisville,
the ACC side, but yeah, but not as many SEC. Big 12. I mean, you have Cincinnati, West Virginia.
But now that they're recruiting Texas, I guess we'll see new trends. Like I guess a little bit of Houston since they've started doing this Texas thing.
Yeah.
Kansas State, maybe.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
You'll see. UCF. Shows up a lot.
UCF. Actually, Pitt and UCF go up against each other a lot because they both kind of hit Florida, that like the Gulf Coast, like a lot of those areas. Like that's a lot of Pitt UCF battles.
Yeah. It's true. So that's a few. We just named most of the schools in the ACC, Big 10 and Big 12, and a handful of SEC schools. Adam Vinchik chimes in. We were talking about recruits who took a long time to announce. Jordan Bass. Yeah, Jordan Bass waited until like September 1st or something like that. That dragged out. And then it dragged out even further. I mean, he announced his commitment on like September 1st, and then he kept everyone guessing all the way up until signing day. So Pitt wins, says who's the best quarterback in the quarterback room? Rumor is the freshman is better. Could there be a crazy switch up? I mean, people have raved about many people are saying that Mason Heichel had a great spring, and many people are saying that maybe Eli Holstein didn't have a great spring. And so, I mean, like there's a lot of talk about that. I still think, I still think Eli Holstein would probably go to ACC Media Days, although that doesn't guarantee anything.
Yeah.
I still think odds are pretty heavily in favor of Eli Holstein being the starting quarterback against Duquesne, right? Like I would put pretty long odds. So I saw Pitt is plus 10,000 to win the ACC. Would you put the odds better or worse or the same for Mason Heichel being the starting quarterback against Duquesne?
Yeah, maybe
no injuries. Like don't not like Eli's banged up or anything like that.
Yeah, maybe worse. It would take a lot for Eli not to be game one starting quarterback for Pitt this season, and I think it's just more of along the lines of like if there are signs of struggle, like towards the end of last year, Eli kind of got hurt and everything was just not clicking for the offense, and I think they would be okay throwing Mason Heichel out there. I just can't see him winning the battle day one. And he might not even play at all, and this might all just be like some storyline that we're just furthering along because we kind of like Mason Heinchel's possibilities, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think what would be really interesting is if you get into a situation like, I was just talking to somebody about this today, the Cincinnati game, the first 40 minutes of the Cincinnati game last year, Eli Holstein was bad.
Yeah.
Like downright bad. Benchably bad. Now for the final 20 minutes, he was awesome. Like he was, best quarterback in the country in the final 20 minutes of that game. But the first 40 minutes, he was terrible. So what'll be interesting this year is if there's a situation where he plays like that in the first 3 quarters of a game, does he get the hook? Are you questioning me, Jim? You look like what something I'm saying is not.
No, somebody sent me
something else.
Somebody sent me a text, and I was perplexed by the question.
Yeah, you looked perplexed by my assertion that Eli Holstein was bad in the first 40 minutes and all at Cincinnati. And
unrelated.
You looked like you were like looking it up. I was like, geez, Jim, what are you fact checking me here? I'm positive about this. He was like 7 of 23 or something. He was terrible in the most of the first 3 quarters.
They were down 27-6. They were bad. Like it was
terrible.
It was awful.
It was benchably bad. Like bad enough that. So that's what's going to be interesting this year is if there's a game that starts off like that. Does he get the hook? And that's when things will get really interesting. All right, final question. Will Z wants to know who's going to sponsor the shot of the game for this upcoming season. I don't have any sponsors yet. It is open. I am always down for drinking, particularly during the post-game show. And so anyone who wants to sponsor that, basically all you have to do is buy me a bottle of alcohol, really. Bourbon, preferably, because that's what the shot of the game usually ends up
Tennessee
being.
whiskey.
No, Tennessee whiskey's fine.
Okay.
It was the moonshine that I had a problem with. Because I don't want all the sweet like apple and peach and strawberry. I just want, something that burns. And that stuff didn't burn. I did those tastings. I was like, guys, what are we doing here? This is like juice, which is dangerous in and of itself because it goes down way too easy. So, but all right, let's roll, Jim. We need to get our sleep so we can be ready for the official visits. Of course, lots of coverage on Panther-Lair.com tomorrow and Friday and Saturday as the official visitors come in. We'll have stuff that we publish, Jim, the confirmed names and things like that, but other things that we're hearing that we're maybe not necessarily going to put on the front page, it'll be on the message boards at Panther-Lair.com. So if you're a Pitt fan, you want to stay up to date on everything going on with Pitt recruiting, check it out, Panther-Lair.com, Pitt site on the 247 Sports Network. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com so you never miss any of our Pitt video content. All right, Jim, thanks for your time tonight. Thanks everybody for tuning in with the comments and the questions. Lots of fun as always. Have a good rest of your Wednesday night. We'll catch up with you tomorrow for the morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.